enjoy the show. The Voice 17104, a station for everyone.
Welcome to Did You Know podcast, your host, Richard Utley, dedicated to the African American viewers. The program is aimed to celebrate African American culture and deal with the real and relevant topics that impact the everyday lives of the African American community through frank and insightful dialogue with local and national influencers. Every day, there is another horrible, discouraging news story, directly or indirectly, impacting African Americans. But we need to look at the shining stars in the galaxy of Black America. It is time to tell our story.
Good evening, good evening, good evening to another Did You Know? Well, we should have a pretty good program on this evening. But before we get with that, let me have a few things that I want to say. You know, on this program, I've been telling us for a long time that we need to work together, we need to look at the community, and there's certain things that we need to do and stop waiting on somebody else to do it for us. Well, I think we're now at that point. I think we're at the point now that we got to look out for ourselves and we got to do certain things. You know, this whole thing about woke and history, I've been telling you for a long time, apparently it's our responsibility maybe to tell our history. I think it's time for our responsibility to really define who we are and show who we are. That has been one of the problems. We have not taken the time or the energy in the long run to define who we are. And so therefore people get wrong narratives of us. They may watch a movie and they think everybody's a criminal. They may think this or they may think that. So I'm going to ask the audience, a lot of you better step up to the plate now and start to talk about us. It's time for us to tell our story. But tell our story through our voices, not through somebody else's voices. Because I think that's very important. You know, the other thing I've always said to you, I think politics is very important, and I think we need to have people run for office. It's easy to sit on the sidelines and complain, but I keep telling you, if you're going to complain, then you need to do something about it. And I have some candidates on tonight that we're going to talk about that. But before with that, you know, I always do my little history lesson. So I'm going to put some names out there for you, and I want you to do the research. You know, who is Thaddeus Stevens? I want you to go and look up who Thaddeus Stevens is, and you will not only find out once you do your research who Thaddeus Stevens is, you also find out that this person is in Pennsylvania. That's all I'm going to tell you. Well, I'll give you a little hint. You could probably maybe find him in Lancaster. He played a very significant role in terms of African Americans. And you'll find out once you do your research about him, what did he play with in terms of wanting you to look up April 16th, 1862. I want you to find out what that's about. And I think you can find Thaddeus Stevens, and what I just gave you, April 16th, 1882, you'll be able to drop the two together. The other thing is that, you know, there's a big issue about the African American Museum. You know, it's up to us to help support the African American Museum. We need to support it, not lip service. I'm saying it. I need to join. Many of you need to join the African American Museum. We should become members of it because we're going to have to support it, because people cannot cut our history out without us having a fight. I think that's very important. The other thing is, there's a book here I brought today. I hope you can see it. Here it is. And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to each program just pick 4 names out, just say them, and so that you can go look at who they are. Robert Abbott. Now, who is he? I want you to find out who he is, but I'm going to say this. He's the founder of the Chicago Defender. 1870 to 1940. Find out who he is. Here he is right there. There you go. That's number one. I'm going to do 4 to down. Alvin Neely. Who's Alvin Neely? You probably want to know who he is. Founder of Alvin Neely American Dance Theater, 1931 to 89. We need to honor these people. There's other people out there other than the main names that we know. Well, I'm sure many of you know who Muhammad Ali is. Okay? He was a boxer, but he was an activist from 1942 to 2016. And I'm going to bring one more up. Who is this? Who's this guy? Richard Allen. Now, who is Richard Allen? Find out who Richard Allen is. Founder of the African Episcopal Methodist Church, AME, 1760 to 1831. So I'm gonna show you this book. Here it is. You might want to get it, look at it, but I'm going to start Black Americans Who Shook Up the World. And we're going to shake up the world, but we have to do it on our own. We must do it on our own because I think it's very important. Well, you know, I always talk about politics, and I always talk about we need to get people to run for office. And so I decided that I was going to bring 3 people on tonight. They're of Dauphin County. Now I realize that some of you that listen to my podcast or watch it don't live in Dauphin County. Some of you don't live in Pennsylvania, but a lot of you do live in counties, whether it's Dauphin County, Allegheny County, Philadelphia County, or whatever. So a lot of these jobs are the same, and some are different, but the key is I want to have people who are running for office so you can look at them and that you can see them, and then you can say, maybe that's why I want to run. Well, the first person I'm going to bring on is from Dauphin County. She's running for Dauphin County Court of Common Pleas. LaTisha Williams. Hello, LaTisha. How are you?
I am well. Thank you so much for having me, Mr. Utley, again.
No problem. I've had you on before. I've supported you before. I'm supporting you now. But before I ask you some questions, would you tell the audience what Common Pleas do? Because and the reason I tell you to ask you that, for you to tell the audience, a lot of times people don't know what these jobs are until it affects them. Mm-hmm. And then they still don't understand it. So I'd like for you to explain what the Common Pleas does.
Certainly, and thank you for your continued support. The Court of Common Pleas of Dauphin County is our trial level court. And actually it functions as an appeals court in some matters. So all of the legal matters that affect our everyday life, family court matters, so when we're going through a marriage or a divorce, when there's a custody issue with our children, child support issues, all things that you can think of, family court, even juvenile delinquency, when our children are accused of breaking the law and committing crimes. Those matters are presided over by a judge in the Court of Common Pleas of Dauphin County. And that's how every county functions. Every county throughout Pennsylvania has a Court of Common Pleas. When we think about criminal law and how crime affects us in our day-to-day lives, either because of an accusation that we've committed a crime or in instances where we've been a victim of crime or a witness to a crime, those matters are ultimately resolved at the Court of Common Pleas. And I say ultimately because they actually begin at the magisterial district court level, or the MDJ, as we tend to say. Once matters go to the MDJ and the magistrate determines that there was sufficient evidence that a crime was committed, then those charges are bound over, as we say, for final disposition resolution at the Court of Common Pleas. So that's where you'll see your jury trials, or your judge or bench trials, as we call them. And then when we think about the civil aspect of our lives, and that's a really broad category. We can think about when we are seeking damages or money from someone because we've been harmed. Maybe there was an accident, a slip and fall. Maybe there's an issue where there was a landlord-tenant dispute. That, again, is an issue that originates with the magistrate, but the party who loses can then appeal their case to the Court of Common Pleas. The Court of Common Pleas also deals with land use appeals, determining whether or not it's okay for a billboard to be in a certain location, or if a special permit is required for certain properties in certain neighborhoods. The Court of Common Pleas also deals with driver's license appeals. When someone's license has been suspended by PennDOT, once that person seeks recourse with the agency, with PennDOT, if they're unsuccessful, they can then appeal to the Court of Common Pleas. So it's a very important court, oftentimes the first stomping ground for our day-to-day issues, but also, like I said, in another sense, it serves as an appellate court or a sort of appeals court when there have been rulings in lower courts or maybe state agencies, and one of the parties wants to appeal.
Okay, well, I have 3 individuals, and then we'll open it all up. So I have another person on, and he's going to be running for coroner, John J. Harris Jr. So, Brother Jay, would you like to tell people who you are and what does coroner do?
Good evening, everyone. I am John W. Harris Jr. A full-time funeral director. Have been in funeral service since I was 11 years old, so 44 years. Been a licensed funeral director and owner since 2000 for a little over 25 years. I'm a father. I'm a husband. Like I said, funeral director, track and field coach, football coach, and a deacon at the church. I am running for Dauphin County Coroner. And Mr. Utley, your question is, what does the coroner do? Is that where we're at?
Yes.
Okay. The coroner responsibility is to determine the cause of death for suspicious and unexplained fatalities and sudden deaths under the direction of the medical examiner. The medical examiner provides all of the scientific work behind the scenes, and that information is given to the coroner to report. Beyond the individual cases of the suspicious and unexplained deaths, the coroner also has to analyze the different patterns of death in the county with, drug overdoses, workplace accidents, and being cognizant of the fact of the different spread of infectious diseases. And we all went through that 5 years ago or so with the pandemic and the COVID-19 virus. So in a nutshell, that's basically what the coroner does in Dauphin County.
Okay. Before I open it up, I have another individual on, the Clerk of Courts, Tina Nixon. Tina, would you tell us what the responsibility of the Clerk of Courts is, and then we'll take it from there and why you want to run.
Okay, great. Thank you for having me. Tina Nixon, I'm running for Dauphin County Clerk of Courts, and I get that question a lot. What does the Clerk of Courts office do? Well, the Dauphin County Clerk of Courts actually supports what the judges do. So excited to be campaigning for this role. It is the official keeper of criminal records as well as it ensures that the justice system runs smoothly and fairly. It maintains all the court records, processes court fees, supports judges and legal staff in preparing cases, court orders, and legal documents, helping the public, which is very important, access case information, assisting with records, expungements, and pardons, and it's ensuring accurate court documents are kept up to date and making sure that the court proceedings run on time. The clerk of courts plays a vital role in keeping the court system transparent, accessible, and efficient for everyone that's involved. I chose to, can I continue?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I chose to run for this seat after doing much research and after being asked first. And the question was, would you run? And I said no at first because I just got off of running for the 103rd. And then someone called and said, the community really needs you. Well, they must have talked to somebody in my family to get that, to ask that question or make that statement, because everyone knows I'm very committed to helping and serving in our community and have done that for 30 plus years. What makes me a great candidate for this role is my 20 plus years of executive leadership, understanding how to hire and build executive teams, also understanding how to work within systems and assessing systems and streamlining processes. So I've had experience in doing that on a nonprofit scale as well as a corporate level, and also what after doing my homework, what really enticed me to run is that when I ran the YWCA, I helped build their domestic violence legal center. So in building the legal center, some of the individuals that are currently in the DA and the judges roles throughout the county, some of the attorneys, and even some of the officers that work within the justice system, I've connected with at some point throughout my career.
Okay, well, I got some questions for all three of you. So, I will start with LATISHA at the Common Pleas. LATISHA, one of the issues is that, and I hope you explain, why it's so important to have people like you on the bench. Because a lot of times people drive past the courthouse and they don't care about the courthouse. It's not important to them until it affects them. But that's why I've always been a believer, and I keep telling people, it's important to know who the district justice is. It's important to know who the judge is, because there's some sensitivity there. So saying all that, why do you see it so crucial that we should have somebody like you?
I think that's a great question, Mr. Utley. It's crucial for the sole reason that representation matters. When we look at the current composition of the court, which, by the way, currently the full complement consists of 10 judges. However, that will change to 11 judges as the legislature added a seat due to increase in population. So with that said, we have an opportunity in this race to elect 2 judges. And we have to remember that there are 2 races. So there is the primary race on May 20th, and then we have the general election in November. And so when we look at the current composition of the court, there are only 2 women who sit on the bench. One of the women, who was my opponent in 2023, just became a judge in 2023. So prior to her, there was just 1 woman on the bench. There are no women of color on the bench, and all of the judges on the bench are members of the Republican Party. so when we look at the litigants who appear before the court on a day-to-day basis, there is not a cross-section of judges that reflect the cross-section of people who have everyday issues and problems and go to the Court of Common Pleas to have them heard. So that's very important representation. There is a pervasive problem right now that is really impacting the African American community. I am one of 5 court-appointed juvenile delinquency attorneys for Dauphin County, which means I was selected by the Board of Commissioners and by the President Judge to provide legal services to juveniles who are accused of breaking the law. And far too often, the juveniles on my caseload are young Black children. And the crimes that are being committed, or as we say, the delinquent acts that are being committed, are extremely serious. They involve guns, drugs. There have been countless shootings. And we don't always hear, we as a society don't always hear about these shootings because they're not always fatal, or they're not always resulting in someone being struck by a bullet. But nonetheless, there are shootings and there are fatalities. And I am running to help put the Black family back together. The family unit is broken for many reasons. And representing children, I have a bird's eye view into some of what is going on inside of the homes with some of the families. Some of it is purely an inability to provide proper supervision due to having to work and make ends meet, but a vast majority of it is dysfunction, it's neglect, it's issues that can be repaired over time. And so I feel absolutely called to play a part in fixing that situation, because if we don't fix the broken family unit, the crime will continue and it's getting worse. And so that's just an overview in terms of why someone like me and someone who looks like me needs a seat on the Court of Common Pleas bench here in Dauphin County.
I think that's very important, because we believe it. People don't want to believe this. We need role models out there. We need to see people that look like us, and I think that's very important, especially in this day and age when people talk about affirmative action. See, because I'm a believer, it's not about affirmative action. It's talking about having some very competent people doing some things. You're an attorney. You had to go through the same process. You had to take the LSAT. You had to do that. You went to law school. You had to pass the bar. They didn't give it to you on a silver platter.
Absolutely not.
And now that you've earned your stripes, it's time for us to reward you, to put you on a bench that you can look out to give our side of it in the room. I used to tell this story. I used to tell the story that sometimes I had been in many rooms, and boy, they was just going to beat up everybody in the room. And there was nothing I could do, because they was going to beat everybody up in the room. But by my presence in the room, they didn't get beat up as bad. And I thought that was very important, because I was in that room. And that's why we have to have people like you on the bench. All right, I'm going to move on to Mr. Harris here. The coroner, as you stated, investigates death, determine the cause of deaths. And my issue, and they issue the death certificates, one of the real issues is that people don't understand coroners, but people rely on what coroners say. And you're running in Dauphin County. Now, the coroner there has been there for 30-some years.
35.
35 years. You're new at this. So you could give a breath of fresh air. You can give a new vision. And I'm gonna be very candid here. People know in my program I speak my mind. One of the big issues, especially coroners, not just in Dauphin County, but many counties, a lot of times, especially people in the minority community, questions the coroner. Now, they may not understand why the coroner came up with investigating the death, but a lot of times they don't trust the coroner because they
Exactly.
don't think the coroner is really giving them the truth. And so tell us why it's so important to have you, because you talk about transparency, and I'm going to go right at it. Because one of the reasons I'm sure people have asked you to run, everybody knows that there's issues in Dauphin County Prison because that's where the rulings are. Or not only that, they look at what state things and they look at the Attorney General's office to see how they rule. Because people are people. And because you go to jail, that don't mean you should not come out alive. But you told me, and I want you to tell this audience, and I like to be transparent here, I am your campaign chair. I just want to be upfront with people here because I don't want them to think that I'm trying to hide something. But I want you to tell my audience why you feel the need to run.
Well, you touched on two key points: was the newness, the freshness, new ideas, a new energy to that office. Like you said, that individual, the incumbent, has been there 35 years. Things, in my opinion, have got a little lax. Um, my goal is to have full disclosure um, with the families, um, and be transparent so they can see, set them down so they can see what was determined by the medical examiner, whether it's information that they assumed or it's the um, information that's factual. So I just want to make sure the family is fully aware of exactly what happened to their loved one. That is my goal.
Okay. I got some more questions for you. All right, I'm going to go to the clerk of courts now, Tina Nixon. Um, Tina, I think it was very interesting when you gave your introduction and you talked about all the positions that you have been in and how you know that you can do the job. Because one of the things that people need to understand is that, especially in Dauphin County, the clerk of courts has been a little hiccup. There's been some problems there. At one time it was ran by a party for a long time, and then they put another party in, and for whatever reason, they weren't able to finish the job for whatever reason. But that's why I'm glad to see you running, because of what you said. So I just want you to tell this audience again, you are qualified. And it's amazing to me, and I get upset so often because it seems like when we run for office, they always ask us, are we qualified? You wouldn't run if you weren't qualified. You wouldn't run if you didn't believe in what you believe in. So I'm glad that you were able to tell the audience that you have a track record of being an administrator. So I would like for you to elaborate on that for us.
Thank you. Well, I think it's important to understand what role you're stepping in, especially if you're going to be considered the leader. And throughout my career, one of the things that I've always done, especially when I was in a leadership role, is to really find out, and I'll say the boots on the ground folks are what they're doing and how they go about doing it. The person that is at the front office, the person that's welcoming people into your office, that's a very important person. And so, as a leader, I've always built relationships at all levels within the organization, and understood, not in intricate detail of what they do, but had a high level of understanding of the importance of their role played in the overall operations of the team and the organization and the goals that we're trying to accomplish. And hearing that there's been challenges over, so many years, one of the things that I will bring to the table is my ability to build strong teams and be able to partner with individuals that may currently work within the office to learn from them and build teams where everyone's successful. I really try to work with and assess what is already there, and then also looking at how we can do things smarter, how we can operate smarter and not work harder. When in doing my research for this role, I went out and I wanted to find who is the best of the best at running a county clerk's office. And I came across a video of a woman that is out in Ohio, and she's won the state honor, the best clerk of the state award. And one of the key things she said in talking about the operations within the office and the importance of running that office was the people. Making sure you have the right people in those spaces and that they are cross-trained, but that you as a leader are uplifting those folks and working together as a team, because it's critical that things get done in a timely manner. It's critical that paperwork is accurate and that you can find it and that people can read it and access it when they absolutely need it. So looking at all those things, I look at some of the classes that I've taken over the years, and I just finished in 2024 the National Executive Leadership Program ran at the Carnegie Mellon University under the TALI, the Advanced Leadership Institute. And that was a program that really looked at how you, as leaders, can have the tools in your toolbox, not only to lead people, but also in developing that growth mindset where you're able to see where things are going and have the tools you need to get there. So again, I'm excited because I've had that experience, and also being born and raised in Harrisburg and living the majority of my life here and being a community volunteer. At one point, and Richard knows, I was probably on 12 boards in the community. And when we talk about things that are taking place currently throughout Dauphin County, I can honestly say, I've touched some of our rural areas simply because of the work that I do. I was up in Millersburg a few weeks ago, and this gentleman said, I'm surprised you're up here. We don't get a lot of folks from, they call it down county. And I said, well, I used to run a transitional housing program in Elizabethville, and I was up there once or twice a week. So, that takes people a little back when you start talking about, your travels, not only throughout the county, but throughout the entire state and the places that you go and the people that you connect with. And I'm about connecting people to resources and really, getting things done. So
I want you to stay on real quick here, because I'm going to bring up some points. Now, people need to understand, when we run for office, we have a passion and we believe in what we believe in. But we also need the help of the institution that we're going in. And sometimes that's not always the case. Sometimes the institution has been there for so long, and then it's replaced, and nobody wants to tell anybody anything. And so that's why I think it's so important to have somebody like you who say, okay, if you don't want to give me the information, then I'll figure it out. Because that's one of the things that has always bothered me about politics. And that is that, and it could be D's, it could be R's, it could be independents, it could be whatever. What happens is, a particular group will come in and they will build 4 flights of steps. Then the next group comes in, instead of building off the 4 flights of steps, they tear it all down, and they start back up to 4. So it never really gets accomplished. That is one of the downsides about government. It's okay to take ownership. It's okay to build on somebody else's foundation. Because I tell people this all the time. Everybody has foundations, because none of us would be in this room if there wasn't somebody that didn't help us or didn't reach back to us. So I just want people to understand that we need to have somebody like you who understands the process. But not only the process, but the sensitivity. Because one of the things that you're not, and you're very clear, yeah, people ask you to run, but you run because you care for the county, you care for the people, and it's not just about a political namesake. That's not what it's about. And ladies and gentlemen, let me be honest with you. I want you to do your research on all these 3 people. Because I want to tell you, I got confidence in all 3 of them can do the job. And that's why I have them on here. 1, because I think they can do the job. But 2, we keep asking people to come out and run for office. So that makes me understand. So all right, I got another question. I guess we'll start back up with Latasha again, and we'll keep going boom, boom, boom.
Okay.
Latasha, you have run for this office before, and you have a
Twice.
passion. You have a passion for it. What gives you the power and the energy to keep on pushing?
I don't know. But truly, seeing what is happening with our young people becoming victims to the grave and to the state correctional institutions at extremely early age is absolutely motivation. Seeing our elders in our community who do not feel safe. I was visiting a friend a few weeks ago and doing some campaigning. This was in the uptown section of the city of Harrisburg when a volley of gunshots rang out. We were sitting on her front porch. It was a beautiful day. She had her children outside playing. I had my daughter in the carrier on the porch, and we instantly jumped into mom mode, scooped up the kids, dove into her living room, onto the floor until it ceased. No one was struck that day, but no one should have to live in that kind of fear and hear gunshots ringing out in their neighborhoods like we're on some shooting range. That is completely unacceptable. And so it's that current state of affairs that motivates me to keep running. I'm also motivated by the fact that I see that we again need representation so that there is some cultural awareness that is a part of our court system, so that we have a judge in place who recognizes and understands the individual circumstances of people from all walks of life. I've had the privilege of serving our community as a prosecutor, and that was outside of Dauphin County and two very different South Central Pennsylvania counties. One county in particular, heavily rural, with very small portions of the city. And so working as a prosecutor, helping victims of crime, but also helping defendants, ensuring that their constitutional rights were not trampled on by the police. That was an important role that I played, and I'm currently a defense attorney. I own my law firm, Williams Law Group, and we primarily service people who are in need of representation for criminal court. And we represent people throughout the state. And so that type of diverse background enables me to see different programs and systems that work, that have been implemented in other counties, as well as other systems and programs that do not work. And that motivates me to want to help make Dauphin County a better place to live and ensure that the litigants who come before the court are appearing before a jurist who is compassionate yet firm, but also having that cultural awareness that is so greatly needed and is not currently present in our Dauphin County Court of Common Pleas. And then I would say, lastly, becoming a brand new mom last July was total motivation, even though, running a campaign and running in a campaign is extremely laborious. It is time consuming if you are serious about it and you're running to win. It's a sacrifice. There are countless birthday parties, baby showers, family get-togethers that I had to pass up on because I was busy doing what was necessary to try to win. And so becoming a new mom and recognizing that this little baby girl is going to grow up, God willing, in this community, I want to be a part of what is the change agent needed to ensure a healthy and safe environment for her, for our seniors, for all of us. So that's
Okay,
been my
thank you.
motivation.
Okay, we're going back to Mr. Harris. Harris, when you travel out and you tell people what position that you're running for, how do they look at you and how do they see the position that you're running for? I'm just curious.
I've gotten a lot of good feedback from the citizens of Dauphin County and running for this office. Kind of overwhelming for me, the excitement that I've experienced with a lot of people, and everyone's pretty much echoing the same thing and saying it's time to get someone else in there. Um, like Tina, when they approached me about this office, I was like, oh no, I'm a funeral director. That's what I do. That's what I love. And it just kept on. They kept on asking. I talked to my wife. I talked to my mother, my kids. I prayed on it, and I just couldn't find a reason uh, not to pursue this. So here I am. Um, I'm doing what it takes so far to fulfill this office. Um, I'm excited. I'm kind of reserved, so it doesn't. A lot of people come up to me. Do you really want to do? I'm like, yes, I do. I'm committed, 100%. So, I've been in the service industry for, like I said, over since 1981, and licensed for over 25 years. So, dealing with families, I see it firsthand with these families that have unanswered questions, and kind of a little fed up with the same old story. So, um, if I can make a difference, I'm gonna surely try to do my best, to be transparent, to be compassionate, to be compassionate, and to care about each family. That's going to be my goal and my focus.
Um, One of the issues, and I want to ask you this question directly, transparency is very important, and especially when a coroner comes up, because you're the one that's giving not good information. You're giving, you tell somebody, could you do death certificates or how they died, how they might have not died, how sometimes they want to think that person died that way, but it might have died a different way.
Right.
So do you believe that one of the things that you will do is that you understand people are, you do understand this, right? That people really don't know about a coroner until it's not good, but you do understand that you need to be compassionate.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, let's go to Tina. Tina, people don't understand, and that's why I think it's so important that you shared early on. You shared your administrative part, but also people need to understand that you have to be compassionate too, because the kind of records that you handle, you need to make sure that they're handled properly. For example, people may not know. It's your job to process certain criminal things. It's your job to make sure that if somebody goes down there and pays their fine, that it gets corrected in the books. Make sure that if it's time for them to leave out the prison, if they've served their time, they don't need to stay an extra hour or extra day. So you understand that. And that's one of the reasons why you're running?
Absolutely. As I was out on the campaign trail and listening to individuals who've had experience with incarceration, one of the things I learned was a gentleman told me that he was paying his fines while he was incarcerated. However, when he got released from prison, he had to repay the fines because the fines that he paid when he was in prison never transferred to the county courts. So now he's paying double the amount. So that right there to me says there's something wrong with the system, and there's some systems may not be talking to one another. Again, doing the research, finding out what the best practices are, and being able to implement them so that people who are impacted by whatever they're impacted by, being a victim of crime, being prosecuted for a crime, that they get their due process, and that our internal systems aren't another barrier for them to be contributing members to our society. And so understanding that, and again, doing that assessment, and also relying on the expertise of the individuals that are in that office. One of the things that I always say, as a leader, you always want to surround yourself with people that are smarter than you. I'm not afraid of that. So if you're telling me that someone has 20, 30 years of experience in doing X, Y, and Z, I'm going to sit and learn. I'm going to learn the systems. I want to learn to understand them. I'm going to help support that individual as they continue to grow in their career development. So working within a system and working with subsystems and building those collaborative relationships are so important in this role. And being the bridge from the judicial system to the community. And as LaTisha said, and I witnessed, that people don't really understand how it all works together. People don't understand, the clerk of courts and, how you go about getting information or paying your fines. So being that bridge to provide that education is so important. And again, looking at best practices, this is being done all over the country, and, people are doing it very, very well. And so, again, making a plan to address the challenges, the overarching challenges, and then working that plan. But before I stop talking, I just want to say one thing. I want to say, LaTisha, sister, I applaud you, because this is a sacrifice, and you are not only sacrificing yourself, but your family. And I don't think individuals really understand that. And also, Kate, who is also running,
Yes.
she's a mother, and she's running. So, and again, you heard Jay, and he talked about all the things that he's doing, not only, in his regular job, but in the community and helping support our children. So I ask individuals, understand that when we say yes, it's hard work, and there are other things that we have no control over in our lives. And I, like, I met both of these individuals, and like myself, if they're going to do great work and quality work and leave a legacy that we can build on. And that's what we truly need right now. We need individuals that are willing to open up their arms, open up their fists, work together so that we can move forward as a community, because no one's coming to save us. And without us working together and supporting one another, we're going to be on this hamster wheel for a long time. There are solutions. There are smart people in our community that can help us get to those solutions. But we have to just put down whatever negativity we have about individuals, or whatever hurts or whatever traumas, work through that, and we need to begin to move forward.
Well,
Well
thank you.
said, Tina. That's well said.
You started
Agreed.
well. Here's where I'm going with this, because the clock is ticking down. For each one of you, I want each one of you to think for a few seconds what you want this audience to remember about you tonight. Just think about it for a minute. It could be passion, it could be whatever. But I want you, each one, and Jay, I'm going to start with you first. I'm going to start with you first tonight. What do you want people to remember you by tonight about you running for this office?
That I'm going to do my best each and every day for the citizens of Dauphin County and provide them with the answers that they need. My doors will always be open, and I'm approachable wherever I am.
Okay, that's it.
That's
All
it.
right. All right. Well, Tosh.
Thank you. I would just ask for the listeners to think about my passion, think about me being someone who has run not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4 times, not 5 times, because you have to consider each race, each individual race, the race in the spring, which is the primary, and the race in the fall. Those are separate races that require their own set of demands and sacrifices. So I am deeply committed to the citizens of Dauphin County and to straightening out what is going on in the community, particularly the violence that we're seeing in some of our young Black children. I'm a former school teacher. I've worked with families in the inner city. It's something that I'm extremely passionate about, and I want you to remember that I may be able to speak to a child or to their family and be able to relate to certain situations where others may not. I mean, the crime is only getting worse, it's not getting better. So let's just take a chance with me. I assure you that I'm going to do my very best. And that's what I would ask for the voters to remember about me.
Tina, you pretty well said it earlier, but I'm going to give you a few more minutes.
Okay, you better stop me from talking. Now, I really want to be remembered as an individual who always, when called upon, helped. I want to be remembered for all the great work I did under the UPMC Central PA umbrella in building a program here in Harrisburg, Healthy Harrisburg, that really addresses those social determinants of health that impact our community. I want to be remembered as a person that builds bridges and collaborations and is really action oriented to get things done. many times we have great ideas. We have wonderful meetings in this community, and I've been around a long time. And but our inability to put action to some of those things because of who we will and won't work with and who wants to be in charge or who wants the title. I don't care about any of that. What I really care about is our community, and I care about equity and making sure everyone has a level playing field. And also, more importantly, in my heart of hearts, is making sure every individual is treated with dignity and respect.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna leave you with what I feel. I feel good because I know for a fact we've shown you 3 quality candidates, and they're all qualified to do the job that you're going to elect them to do. So it was my great honor to have them on tonight so that you can see them for yourself. Do your research, do your homework, but also I want you to tell other people about them. Spread their name out. But you gotta go to the polls to vote for them. Because it don't mean anything if you're sitting there shaking your head yes, but you won't go to the polls to get them elected. So it's our job now. I've asked you time and time again to run for office. So we're getting good, strong, quality candidates to run for office. But we gotta do our part and get them elected. So thank you for tuning in tonight. And I'll be seeing you in a few weeks. But at the same time, the fight's not over and the journey is still ongoing. And I'll leave you with this. Nobody can wipe our history off of anything. Nobody can burn it up. Nobody can erase it. Because we have a legacy of who we are. So thank you.
May 20th.
Good evening. And May 20th. May 20th. Write it down. Write it down. Make arrangements now to get to the polls and vote. Thank you.
That was fun.